விவசாய மக்கள் ஆலைகளில் தொழிலாளர்கள் நாங்கள் குளித்து உயிர் வாழும் தோழர்கள் 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 நெருப்பு ஊர்வலங்கள் நாங்கள் சூரிய தோழர்கள்
முழமுரு ககவார் பயா சகியோமிதா மன முரு ககவார் பயா சகியோமிதா छुआ छूता माता जिंगेरा बिहारा रे मन मुरुगा
ये हाहाकार अत्याचार हम न सहेंगे
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 जहाँ हक न मिले तेरा मेरा हम तो लड़ेंगे
जहाँ हक न मिले तेरा मेरा हम तो लड़ेंगे
जहाँ हक न मिले तेरा मेरा हम तो लड़ेंगे
जहाँ हक न मिले तेरा मेरा हम तो लड़ेंगे
हम तो लड़ेंगे हम न डरेंगे हम तो लड़ेंगे हम न डरेंगे हम तो लड़ेंगे हम न डरेंगे इनकलाब जिंदाबाद इनकलाब जिंदाबाद इनकलाब जिंदाबाद जय हिंद। மனுஷங்கடா மனுஷங்கடா நாங்க மனுஷங்கடா உங்க தலைவன் பிறந்த நாள் போஸ்டர் ஒட்டவும் உங்க ஊர்வலத்துல தர்மாடிய வாங்கி கட்டவும் உங்க தலைவன் பிறந்த நாள் போஸ்டர் ஒட்டவும் உங்க ஊர்வலத்துல தர்மாடிய வாங்கி கட்டவும் மனுஷங்கடா நாங்க மனுஷங்கடா உள்ள மனுஷங்கடா நாங்க மனுஷங்கடா மனுஷங்கடா நாங்க மனுஷங்கடா நன்றி.
To present the original song of Manipur. Shanalai Pak Manipur, Manipur, Kolai Lungi Manipur, Manipur. Shanalai Pak Manipur, Manipur, Kolai Lungi Manipur, Manipur.
On behalf of Campaign for Electoral Reforms in India, CERI, I warmly welcome all of you who are present here. दिल्ली की इस खूबसूरत, सुहानी और धूप से भरी हुई सुबह में आप सबका स्वागत है। शुक्र है कि मौसम हम पर मेहरबान है। आज अच्छी धूप निकली है और निकलने का, घर से बाहर आने का मन हुआ है। लेकिन इसके बावजूद कल शाम जब बहुत ठंड थी तब भी दिल्ली ने बहुत गर्मजोशी से इस कैंपेन का स्वागत किया था, जिसकी एक बानगी आप आज के अखबारों में भी देख सकते हैं। तो उस बहुत उत्साहजनक वार्म अप के बाद आज की इस नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस में आप सब लोगों का हार्दिक स्वागत है। To start our day, I would like to invite our very special guest, Honorable Justice Vidya, on the dais. Sir, please come on the dais and take a seat. Our guest speaker, Mr. Satyanarayan Sahu, Additional Secretary, Rajya Sabha. And Mr. M C Raj, founder, CERI, who is the force behind this campaign. We are also expecting our chief guest, Honorable Justice Rajinder Sachar Sahab, any minute. Meanwhile, I request Madam Jyoti Raj to please come on the dais and extend a formal welcome to our speakers and guests today.
Honorable guests and dear friends, good morning to all of you and JB. Yesterday was a real great day for CERI because the presence of Election Commissioner and his statements towards the end, he said that you would constitute a committee to look into proportionate electoral system. I think for CERI it was a very historical achievement. I think we need a clap, so we need to clap. Mr. Raj, when he gives his keynote address, definitely will share with us the historical context of CERI and within a short time what we have achieved. My responsibility now is to welcome. We have today and tomorrow, we are going to engage ourselves in serious discussions and sharings, debate, etc., towards understanding PAS system and what we need to achieve in the coming years. And ultimately, we are trying to look at the best suitable proportionate electoral system to India. So in our midst, we have Honorable Justice Vidya, the former Chief Justice of Kolkata High Court, former Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court. He has been speaking on the issue of human rights and is the votary of proportionate electoral system. He has been attached to many national and human rights organizations and speaking against corruption, criminalization of politics, and is a strong supporter of electoral reform and believes that the time has come for India to look for drastic change in electoral system. Now we have Mr. Satya Narayana Sahu, Additional Secretary, Rajya Sabha, a strong supporter of CERI, and he was resource person at Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Orissa state conferences and meetings. And on behalf of all of us, I welcome Justice Vidya and Satya Narayana Sahu, and please give them a clap. I also welcome Mr. M C Raj, convener of CERI, all the coordinators and participants from all the states, all the panelists, and all the moderators, friends of CERI from all walks of life, of course the media. I am sure our discussions and deliberations will take us forward into finding the right proportionate electoral system for India. Jai Hind.
Honorable Justice Vidya, my friend Mr. Satya Narayana Sahu, Klaus Wall from Germany, all the panelists and moderators, state coordinators of CERI, co-group members, all those who are involved in bringing CERI to where it is today from all the states, all the delegates, Jyoti, Jobi, Vivek, my good morning to all of you. Not only CERI, not only India, but the whole world is in crossroads today. We profess to have a democracy, but we are also passing through the contradictions of democracy and democratic governance. It is there for all of us to see the contradictions. Modern and postmodern democracy have been placed in the predominant context of the emergence of nation states through the many trajectories of the growth of capitalism and capitalist economy. Nation states today actually seem to be functioning, and in many countries are functioning as agent states, agents of dominant economic, social powers. Governance in the context of the nation state has to be seriously re-looked at. Governance as the distribution of values has been subverted into becoming an accumulation of values. Accumulation of values in the hands of a few and deprivation of values from the poor, the marginalized, and engineered disempowerment of a vast majority of people in the nation states. The crossroads, the contradictions are also seen in inclusion and exclusion. Democracy as people's power is supposed to include all sections of society and citizens of society. But we see that many democracies, through their electoral systems, are engineering exclusion of citizens, of communities. Power of the people, democracy has become concentration of power in the hands of a few powerful minorities. As I said yesterday, every democracy, every nation state goes through pains and pangs of evolution of a personality. India is going through this painful process of building up a personality as a nation. However, as conscientious citizens and often as victims of these contradictions of democracy, we have a duty, a responsibility to restore democracy as power of the people. It is people who have to restore democracy as the power of the people. Power sharing in the institutions and mechanisms of governance then becomes imperative. Participation in governance will mean also sharing in power. We need to restore this sharing of power in this country. This can be achieved by developing a political paradigm of power as participation. In classical political theory, we have power as dominance, power as resistance. But now, if we as people are in emergence, then definitely we need to develop this paradigm of power as participation. Participation in the instruments and mechanisms of governance. The campaign for electoral reforms, CERI, has come a long way in a short time. Within 3 years, we have been able to make inroads. I have great appreciation of all those who have dedicated themselves to bring CERI to where it is today. Especially, I like to mention all the state coordinators, the co-group members, and all who have collaborated with them in respective states. It is because of your efforts and commitments that this campaign has been able to achieve what it achieved yesterday, a promise from the Chief Election Commissioner of India that CERI will be part of a future commission that the Election Commission would set up for looking into proportionate electoral system. Thank you very much, all those who have committed yourselves to this very important cause. But let us not immerse ourselves in glory, in euphoria. We have a great challenge. All along, till now, we have been challenging the powers that be. We have been critical of the political establishment in the country. But now, the challenge is at our doorstep. The challenge is for you. With the Election Commission's announcement, now you need to actually move into the corridors of power, into the political parties, and for negotiations with political leaders. We've been indulging in rhetoric. We've been indulging in street-level protests and actions. But negotiating with political powers is a different ballgame altogether. We need to develop special capacities for this, and that is a big challenge for us. Only those of us who are ready to take up this challenge of negotiating with political powers, with political institutions in these countries, and with political parties will be able to survive and succeed and carry forward the campaign to its logical conclusions. I like to remind you again and again of this big challenge of becoming opinion leaders and of becoming negotiators at different tables, at different platforms, very different from what many of us are used to. This is a big challenge in your hands now. We have to now identify in these 2 days of deliberations on how we are going to take up the challenge. We have tried to make your task easy through this document that we have brought about, through the workshop of electoral systems experts in October 2011. There are different locales, there are different areas, different positions on which we can try to negotiate, we can try to deliberate tomorrow and today. The document lays out before you that what is best suited for India as of now is a mixed member proportionate representation system. This document is unique because for the first time it is proposing a 30-70 mixed member proportionate electoral system. 30% of the present existing first past the post electoral system, 70% of the party list system. We need to understand this very clearly. This mixed member proportionate electoral system, this will be a big way forward for the inclusion of hitherto excluded communities, Dalits, Adivasis, tribals, minorities of all hue and cry, women. We have also proposed a party list system for 70%, and we need to understand how voters vote for party lists. We've also introduced 2 votes per voter. All all voters in India will have 2 votes. This is what the mixed member proportionate electoral system proposes to do. That needs to be understood. That is why yesterday our Chief Election Commissioner said that proportionate electoral system can be a bit complex, and that is very true. But I have a lot of confidence in Indian voters, and we won't take long to understand that. One of the unique features of this document that we have released yesterday, and that is I don't think anywhere else in the world, that is very specific for India, is the attempt to bring inclusion of the excluded communities through a reservation system in the party list system. Not giving reservation of this many percent to one community, not this many percent to another community. That is what we are used to. But this document proposes that this inclusion is actually integrated in the way we work out the party list system itself. During the conference today and tomorrow, I am sure the panelists will explain this to you, and if there is more need for explanation, I shall definitely step in. We have also in the document a lot of emphasis on internal party democracy. Most of the campaigns on electoral reforms in India have been focusing on corruption, violence, communalism, casteism, money power. All this have been the predominant concern in the campaigns in India. But we must understand that these are all mostly attempts at tinkering with the existing system, making it more lookable, making it more fashionable, making it more acceptable, but not changing the system. Those who are interested in preserving dominance of a powerful minority will definitely opt for the first past the post electoral system, which today it cannot suit India, because India is a multicultural society with coalition politics, many parties, and then inclusion becomes a key element, a key need in Indian democratic government. Therefore, I wish you a lot of strength in the coming 2 days, 2 days of focused discussions and deliberations. I would request all of you to shy away from rhetoric and jargons. This is not the time for rhetoric and jargons. Let us apply ourselves seriously, intellectually and strategically into thinking about the future generations in India, and let us expend all our energy on strategic thinking and working out plans. And let us also remember this very important dimension in which we need to deliberate. I wish you all strength from Mother Earth, from all our ancestors, and be filled with energy for the coming 2 days. And with committed vigor, let us move forward. Thank you.
इलेक्टोरल रिफॉर्म्स की बात भारत में जब भी होती है तब हम उसमें कुछ सजावटी बदलावों की बात करते हैं जिसका बहुत ज़्यादा मतलब नहीं निकलता है, क्योंकि उसको हम कैसे वो जो सामाजिक बुराइयां हैं, जैसे भ्रष्टाचार है, जैसे वायलेंस है, जैसे निकम्मापन है पब्लिक लाइफ के अंदर, हम उन्हीं वो सारी सामाजिक बुराइयां जो पूरे समाज में हमें दिख रही हैं, हम उन्हीं से डील करने लगते हैं और बहुत इधर उधर के थोड़े बहुत बदलावों की बात करते हैं और वो जो अमूलचूल परिवर्तन है उसकी बात नहीं करते। तो सेरी की जो कैंपेन है हमारे चुनावी प्रणाली को बेहतर बनाने के एक दूसरे दौर में लेके जाने वाली है। तो मुख्य तौर पर आपने यही कहा, महिलाएं तो कोई बात में भूल रही हूँ तो मुझे याद दिला दें। मेरे ख्याल से जो जिस था वो आपके एड्रेस का वही था। 2 दिन में, अगले 2 दिनों में हम लोग बहुत सारी नई शब्दावलियों से भी जूझेंगे, उन्होंने फरमाया, और उसमें हम लोग देखेंगे कि क्या संभावनाएं हैं, उनको समझेंगे। ये कॉन्फ्रेंस हमारे लिए कार्यशाला के रूप में भी है कि हम बिल्कुल प्रतिनिधित्व के मुद्दे पर बिल्कुल नए तरह की शब्दावली और बिल्कुल नए तरह के कंसेप्ट्स के साथ डील करेंगे. After this I invite very important speaker of ours today, Mr. Satyanarayan Sahu ji, Additional Secretary Rajya Sabha, to please come to the podium and deliver his speech. Mr. Satyanarayan Sahu, thank you.
Good morning to everybody, the Justice Vidya and Mr. M C Raj and distinguished participants. I'll just speak for 10 minutes, not more than that. Actually, when democracy, was conceived as a form of getting the people's will for rule and governance, it was always the attempt of mankind across the world to make it more representative so that it would reflect properly the will of people. So when democracy first evolved in the modern period, not in ancient Greece or anywhere else, through French Revolution, through American Revolution, actually the modern form of democracy evolved. So even in the French Revolution, after the French Revolution, when democratic societies or democratic systems were created, the will of the people was not adequately reflected. Even though French Revolution talked about liberty, equality and fraternity. If you look at the French Declaration of Independence after the Revolution, French Declaration, the very first article said that those rights were only available to a male component of the population. So women were excluded. Similarly, when the American Declaration of Independence was adopted after the Great Revolution, the very first line it said that all men are created equal. But in American system, slavery was there, even though this very line was there, all men are created equal. In other words, slaves were not considered as citizens, and women were not adequately represented. So why I am giving these historical examples is because this is how a struggle was launched to make democracy more representative and more reflective of the people's will. In fact, in American Constitution, when the American Declaration of Independence, when it was said that all men are created equal, wife of John Adams, a key member of the American Constituent Assembly, who went on to become the President of USA, she wrote a letter to her husband, Mr. John Adams, that please remember the ladies, because all men are created equal doesn't reflect the will of women. So John Adams wrote a very sarcastic letter to his own wife. He said that our revolution has brought about indiscipline among slaves, indiscipline among students. Now a more numerous tribe called women, they are asking for equal rights. In other words, all these great revolutions were never actually truly representative of the people's will. American women got the right to vote in 1920, in the 20s. And I was reading a very interesting write-up which said that in 1999 somebody compiled the top 100 events that took place in the last millennium. So according to the top 100 events, the first one was the invention of aeroplane, and at fourth place, American women getting a right to vote was considered the fourth most important event. And in the 14th place, Einstein's theory of relativity was placed. In other words, American women getting right to vote was more important than Einstein's theory of relativity, which brought about a paradigm shift in understanding the universe in understanding so many things in physics. So this is the representative character. In other words, a struggle has always been launched to make democracy more representative, to make it more reflective of the people's will. And it was there in India also. When the Constituent Assembly met in India, it was two members from the Constituent Assembly who moved the amendments for proportional representation to constitute the Lok Sabha, or what is called the lower house of Indian Parliament. So these two members, Muhammad Ali, Mehboob Ali and Mr. Karimuddin, they were from the minority communities, but it is very important to understand why did they move that amendment. And that is what I think, that's what I was telling Mr. Raj. Now, after when he invited me to participate in Bhubaneswar meeting, I had a very hazy understanding. I only confined myself to the debates of the Constituent Assembly, whether it was taken up or not. And then I found that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar rejected that amendment. But we should be mindful of the fact that even B.R. Ambedkar in his last speech in the Constituent Assembly said, whatever was moved in the Constituent Assembly and was negatived or not accepted in the Constitution, that didn't mean that those amendments had no relevance. So there was no finality in the rejection of those amendments. In other words, those two amendments moved by Mr. Karimuddin and moved by Mr. Mahmood Berhali, even though they were not accepted in the Constituent Assembly, that according to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had they didn't lose relevance. So what did they say in the Constituent Assembly? They said democracy has to should be made more representative. A heterogeneous society like India's should have a system where every group, every section should be there in the House of People. As such, we members of Rajya Sabha are elected on the basis of proportional representation. So one House of Indian Parliament, has members who are elected on the basis of proportional representation. It's not that we are completely aware or different or alien to the proportional representation. So if it was taken up in the Constituent Assembly by two members, so what did they write? What did they say in favor of proportional representation? That is very significant. They said it will, during that time, he said the threat of communalism was there due to partition of India and because of so many factors. He said more than the threat of communalism, it was the threat of communism which posed danger to India. He said to prevent communist ideology to take over India, we have to have proportional representation. Okay, now the same communist parties have accepted parliamentary system of democracy, and they say that there is no alternative to parliamentary system of democracy. So that threat is no more there. Second point they said was that it will put an end to majoritarian rule, because by getting the people's representatives in proportion to their numbers in society, that would be much more representative. And that representative character, which was missing even in French Revolution, which was missing in American Revolution, that was emphasized in Indian system when we started in the Constituent Assembly, which has been described by Professor Granville Austin of America as the second most important assembly in the history of mankind after the Philadelphia Convention, which gave birth to American Constitution. So this attempt to introduce proportional representation, which started by CERI. In fact, I was more educated to this system only after I started participating in such events. And during the course of my own reading and research, I found out that apart from CERI, there are very important figures in India who have been advocating this particular system. And the other day I was telephoned Mr. Raj to say that it was Mr. K. Subramanian. He was a thinker on strategic issues and affairs. Mr. C. Subramanian, he wrote an article sometime back which was not published, but now it has been published on the first death anniversary of that great strategic thinker. He says that proportional representation is one of the issues concerning strategic governance of India. So Mr. K. Subramaniam said that he wrote it was published in Indian Express. He said this is important to address many problems, including the problems bedeviling our democracy, particularly the problems of political corruption in the electoral process. Similarly, Mr. Jayaprakash Narayan of Lok Satta, he writes that the problem of corruption affecting political parties and the entire electoral system can be addressed very effectively by introducing proportional representation. And only 2 days back, I was reading Statesman, the newspaper, and I found there is an article written by Arunav Bakchi. He is teaching in a university in Norway, Netherlands. And this is the article, Sense of Proportion. So here he says he was referring to the problem of corruption that is almost paralyzing our society, our politics, and our electoral system. And then he says that it was this proportional representation can address this issue. Because essentially, he says now, since India has arrived in the coalition era, coalition government has become a fact. And he says that proportional representation will necessarily lead to coalition government, coalition formations. So when there is a coalition government and coalition formation, which is integral to proportional representation system, that is more suitable to India than to any other country in the world. And when small countries like Netherlands or small countries like New Zealand, they have been doing it, and a huge country like India can also do it. The problem was analyzed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly, was that at that time, in 1947, after we got independence and when the Constituent Assembly was working to frame the Constitution, it was said by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar that what was foremost was the stability of the government, stability of India as a whole, which was critical at that time and which is critical even now. Because India was partitioned, even in Delhi there were communal riots, and in many parts of India. So how to have a stable government, how to safeguard the unity of India, that was the foremost point in the minds of everybody there in the Constituent Assembly. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, one of the foremost defenders of the unity of India. So he gave priority to the unity of India and the stability of the government. And he, in his wisdom, thought that at that time, proportional representation would create so many constituencies and so many groups would be there in the parliament. Possibly they would come together and pull down the government, and that would lead to instability. So he gave primacy to stability of the government. But our own system, parliamentary democracy, is based on accountability. Presidential system of democracy is based on stability. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave the reasons why we preferred accountability to stability. So that is the key point. And he said in the Constituent Assembly that if you have to change the constitution to adopt proportional representation, it would drastically change the very character of parliamentary democracy, the defining feature of which is accountability. But Professor K.T. Saha, one of the active members in the Constituent Assembly, he supported the amendments to the draft article of the Constitution on the Constitution of Lok Sabha. He said that by proportional representation, we can blend or we can combine both accountability and stability. So here is one example in the Constituent Assembly. Professor K.T. Saha, he is defending that amendment, even though those two amendments were negatived, and Ambedkar he refused to accept those amendments on the ground that what was required in India was that time the stability of the government to protect its unity. So this is the historical background against which we have to consider whether even now, for instance, it is said that the unity of India is very fragile. There is a threat to its very unity. All of us are aware from different parts of our country, including Northeast and Jammu and Kashmir and so on and so forth. And so this vision of Ambedkar, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, that we have to be mindful of the unity of the country has to be borne in mind, even now in 21st century. So, but at the same time, we have to make our democracy more representative and more reflective of the will of the people.
On behalf of CERI, all the core members of CERI and Rural Education for Development Society, I extend a very warm welcome to Honorable Justice Rajinder Sachar. Please give him a big hand.
Electoral system is the very basis of democracy. And from the date we became independent, how it has evolved in the right direction or in the wrong direction, it was said that the moneyed people, minority, who command money, have almost hijacked the electoral system and democracy in the country. And it appears to be so. Giving a personal example, way back in '62, I happened to contest election for Parliament as an independent candidate, and believe me, I started, few friends of ours, about 5 of us, started the election with 150 rupees. Gave 100 rupees to the jeep wala and 50 rupees petrol, and we started. And on the last day of nomination, filing the nomination paper, we didn't have 500 rupees. At that time, 500 rupees was the security that you had to deposit along with the nomination form, and we didn't have it. At night, around 11 o'clock, I was sleeping in a place. Another gentleman was with me, and I started laughing that our election will be over tomorrow because there is no money, security money, and so no nomination paper, election will end tomorrow. And he asked me, I said, it was around 11 o'clock. I said, why are you laughing? I said, nothing. There is something. I said, I had asked somebody to bring 500 rupees. He hasn't come. And tomorrow is the last date for nomination, and our election would be over tomorrow. He was a teacher. He had just got school fee from the children. He said, our election will not be over tomorrow. Here is 500. This fee can be deposited after a few days. And that's how we started the election. And the contribution and all, our total was about 8,000 rupees at the end. I lost the election by a very narrow margin, and that too when Nehruji came to a Muslim-dominated area, because an SOS was saying that the Congress is losing the election. And of course, the rigging had started at that time, because Nehru was not allowed to speak there was a Muslim candidate, and his people sat right in front of the dais, And when Nehruji started speaking, they all stood up. With the result, Nehruji couldn't speak. But we had a very strong chief minister by his side, Pratap Singh Karon, if you have heard his name. And he said that we came to know afterwards, that Congress must win from here. So about 19,000 votes were double stamped. Our workers were not allowed in the counting hall, and I lost the election by 19,000 votes. Third candidate was a Johnson candidate. He lost his deposits. Now it is not possible to fight election, even parliament election, even with 8 crore rupees, which we fought by 8,000 rupees then. That is how this situation has changed today.
When earlier the elections took place, I tell you that whenever there has been a very big matter, people have voted overwhelmingly. I have heard the figure which tells us, for example, in 77, it's surprising. We are talking of more than 50% votes. Now, more than 50% of votes were polled for candidates. In 1977, 474, I'm talking of the parliament, 477 members of the parliament got elected with more than 50% votes in 1977. And remember, 1977 was the post-emergency thing. So what really prevailed with the people was an anger against the emergency, an anger against being deprived of their rights, an ideological firmament which took the people to vote. So when we sort of blame people for not voting, please remember, people are looking for something to vote. They must have some solid base on which to vote for a candidate. And that is why in 77, they gave 403 people who got elected. Similarly, when circumstances happen, I always want to call it is a politicalization of criminals. And there is a difference. It is not merely a word. Criminals have always helped politicians in the election right from quite early ages. I mean, I know from Punjab and that through probably worse. People coming from Bihar can tell you that about 20 years back, it was impossible for Dalits and backward people to go and vote because the criminals will really surround them and they won't let them go to the polling booth and their votes will be cast in abstention. Now, that was criminalization of politics at that stage, which meant that the politician picked up the criminals, used them for his own purpose and got elected. But then the stage comes when the criminals start thinking. And very rightly says, I sent this politician as an MLA or an MP. He became a minister. He couldn't have become unless I had gone to the village and stopped these Dalits and others from voting. Why am I letting this person get elected? Why shouldn't I go to the politics? Why don't I go to the assembly myself?
हमारा सीरी का जो मीडिया का चेहरा है, आइए प्लीज बी सीटेड. And the force behind the force, Madam Jyoti. We are all enamored by the force of the power of Mr. M C Raj.